Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about episode 7 of The Wheel of Time. This is my favorite episode so far, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to be doing with episode 8. They put out a new 30-second trailer for it, and it looks really awesome. Fingers crossed. I think this is one of Rafe's favorite episodes, episode 8, and this is supposed to be like the big battle and all this other stuff, but we'll see. There are just certain elements about this one that I think it might be my favorite of the whole season, but we'll have to wait until episode 8 comes. I think my rankings for the episode so far, in the number 1 spot is episode 7, then second place is episode 4, and in third place will be episode 1. So those are my top 3 episodes. Episode 7 has definitely taken the gold. The other ones, they were good. I like all of them a lot, but this obviously one is going to be my highest rating. So let's get into sort of this episode. I think the biggest thing they did right was the tension. The tension throughout the whole thing was really well made, I thought, and it was different types of tension throughout, so it wasn't just like this one tone the whole time. And then we also had some pretty good downtime with our characters. And I haven't even mentioned the first opening scene with the blood snow with the guy Eel, and she was just awesome. Like, she was so cool battling out there, pregnant with like a whole bunch of soldiers coming after her, and she was like having contractions and like about to give birth, and it was just... Everyone was freaking out in the movie room when we were watching it, especially people who don't know who the Aiel were. People who are not fans of the books but love the show that are part of my family, they were like, oh, they're like freaking out, and me and my dad were just like we were just going crazy, and it was really awesome. We were like hitting each other and stuff like that, and it was just like, dude, this is such an awesome moment. And everyone in the room gasped when she got stabbed in the stomach, and it was just like heart-wrenching because she's worked so hard. And then at the end of that whole sequence, we see the sword come in, and me and my dad were like, oh, we know where that sword's from. And then they're like, huh? Like, because we're obviously really paying attention, or we like pick up on things because we know them from the book. But you could see from that sword it was the heron mark blade, and I was like, man, that, oh my gosh, that's like such a cool detail. And I'm like, if you're actually really paying attention, you're gonna see whose sword that is. But in our minds, we already know the whole story, so we're obviously gonna see the sword and be like, yep, they made all those connections together. But they're like, what sword? And then if you're keeping it all together of like Rand being Aiel and stuff like that, like, yeah, it all comes together if you really care. My family and friends who watch it with me, they do like it and they do care, but like, not us Giga fans, like, right? Because they're like, they won't really know. But yeah, that was like really cool. That whole sequence is super awesome. They're still ramping up the Matt thing, which is really interesting, and I'm very interested in what they're going to be doing, because in that 30-second clip as well, we actually see Matt in episode 8, unless they just like pulled that from somewhere and he's not actually a part of it. But I'm really interested what the community thinks that is all about. Moraine has set up that in episode 7 that Matt is going to be picked up by Red Aja, like they're going to be after him. So maybe this is Matt like getting really bad with like the dark sickness and all of that, and Red Aja go after him and try to still him, but like can't still him, and they take him in anyway and clean the darkness from him. And that's where things in the books happen, and it happens a little bit faster. It happens in the show than in the books, because in the books it happens like well into episode book 2. So this would be really cool to just get it early on, seeing like all the connections happening. I don't know if they'll get to that point, but I do have speculations once the season is over that I'm just going to talk about show theories and then show and book theories when we get there. They are in the ways, and I like how they set up the ways. I made jokes about it, how it looked like a like old theme park or Disney like scary ride, when you, I don't know if you've ever been into like one of those theme park rides and like they have the lightning flashing and it's supposed to be like seem ominous, but they actually did a really good job with it. I liked it a lot. One of the big things that they're setting up was Perrin and Rand basically like kind of fighting over the opinion of Egwene, and just like Perrin would take the side of Egwene, and Rand was against it because Rand had been in the wild with Matt for so long and taking care of him, and he's going to be very defensive of him. And then Egwene is not necessarily going to be on the side of Matt, which is something that is in the books, and Perrin, who has been with her through the months going through the wilderness, he is going to have her back, obviously. But I don't like the conflict that they set up, that they have some kind of romantic thing going on at all. I think at the end we get it clear that it wasn't. He's just more like protective over her, but we also get the whispers from him that saying that like he was trying to get her out of the picture. So like, I'm gonna leave it at what it is. I don't think they're going to go the route in the show of Perrin and Egwene having any type of romantic relationship, anything, because I don't think Egwene is interested at all anyway. So that's just something to put out there. But they're in the ways, and we have Egwene, and we see that the stone is actually, the guiding stone is all messed up, and they're like, what the heck is going on? And I think we have great back and forth banter while Loyal tries to figure it out, and we get Egwene and Rand all snugly together, and Rand and Perrin giving a side eye, which I could care less about. And then we hear the whistle, which obviously we hear the whistle, we know who is coming. And the Trolloc attack was awesome coming out. And we see Egwene, what we think, using the one power to stop it, but we learn later that it's actually Rand who uses it and throws him off. And I thought that part was really cool when they added in that big reveal later. They get further in the ways, and I like the way that they did the Black Wind, where it's basically like telling them all their internal conflicts and bringing them to the forefront and all that sort of stuff, just reinforcing it again. I think some people would have a problem with that, just being like way too blatant, but I think it works for people. Because for normal audiences, because we went away from everyone for a little bit and focused on Moraine and Lan and all that stuff for like 2 episodes. So I thought it was really good that we went back and reinforced all their ideas. I thought it was really interesting that with Moraine, they brought up that her biggest fear was like she was just going there to basically have all of them killed and call yourself a hero because of it, basically. And it's really good to just see the inside of Moraine and how she doesn't want to kill all these kids, but she's going to do what she thinks that is right and what they need to do to defeat the darkness. And everyone's was really cool and really different, and we hear a part of Rand's, and I love that they play up the Rand, actually what he heard later on, which was cool. And the next thing that I thought was awesome visually and great, but I could see myself having a problem with it later on in the series. Basically, Nynaeve getting mad again because all these voices are talking to her, and she has her like exploding light of radiance like they did in episode 4, and everybody's able to escape, and Lan basically helps her escape as well. I could definitely see this as sort of kind of being a Deus Ex Machina, because not too much of the power of her powers explained of how she uses it, and she's not actually really sure how she uses it. She's just like, when the plot requires her to, she's just gonna explode and save everybody. And so that's like the second time she's done that. That's my only problem with it, but I love majority of it because I'm like, oh, Nynaeve is super awesome. She's saving everybody. She's like screaming this burst of radiance. It's awesome visually, but my one gripe with it is like, is this just going to be a plot thing that whenever something bad is going to, like, are we going to see it next episode? Like, is there going to be a thing that happens and then Nynaeve does it again? It downplays the moment every time you do it or how frequent you do it. Like, it's going to have to take something more substantial for her to unlock that next level of power, not just when she's angry. That's just sort of my opinion about that. I will move on. They get out of the ways and they're at Fauldara, and I'm just going to really start speeding it up and just talk about the really key moments. They get there, the king's sort of like off-putting, and he's more defensive, and basically Moraine's just like, you got Trollocs in the ways, so you need to like get it all together, and he apologizes for being a dick, basically, and then they go off to talk with Min, or Moraine does, and Min is one of my favorite characters. I mentioned it in the past episode. They really need to get her right for me, but I don't think she had enough screen time for me to really judge her. I liked her performance and the way she was. I just wanted her to call Rand a sheep herder, but maybe we'll get that. I don't really know. That's all I care about. And Lan doesn't call Rand a sheep herder either, but it's, you know, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I definitely want that in season 2 though. Anyway, she sees all these images around them. She sees Rand has a kid. She sees Perrin having blood on his mouth with golden eyes. And then we don't see it from the 2 girls, but she is like, one has, I think it was a white flame and the other one has a golden ring, but we don't know who is who. So it's really cool that just like the show isn't outright blatantly saying things. It's sort of leaving some kind of mystery to be able to figure out what's going on. We also get Pot and Fane coming through the doorway. Something in the bonus content is he actually did have that leaf to open up the doorway, because, or the way gate. A lot of people are going to be like, okay, can he channel? Like, is that the thing, how he like gets through? Because Moraine can channel, and they like, nobody knows how Pot and Fane got through, and I think it adds a lot more into the mystery of how Pot and Fane does what he does, and he's really in the background. And I think if they showed the leaf, it would be like, oh, so he used that to do this, where if they didn't show the leaf, he would be more mysterious, and I think that was like the route they were going. But he does have the leaf for show viewers, you won't really know what that is, but they use that to open up the away gate in the books, and they don't weave to open up the way gate in the book. So that's a whole thing. It was a controversy. Who cares? I don't. Anyway, we'll move on. Again, I'm gonna brush over this because I didn't like it at all, but I get it was a story beat that needed to happen to move on to the next thing. Basically, they're all sitting together talking about how they should not go into the Blight with them, and Moraine's just like, if you do, you're gonna die if you're not the Dragon Reborn. And then they're just like, what if none of us are? And then it's like, well, that's a risk I'm willing to take and all that. And then she leaves. She's like, the choice is yours. And they all start talking about it, and then it basically turns into like Rand and Perrin puffing their chests at each other. And I didn't like it. I get why they need to do it. It's like, and Nynaeve's just like, stop acting like Egwene's like a prize you gotta fight over, and Egwene didn't like speak up about it, and it's I don't know. I didn't like it as Egwene and Perrin. They're my two favorite characters, and just like that's just not how their relationship is, and like even insinuating in that way, I didn't like it. It just for me. But that's the only part of the episode that I didn't like. And actually, in the series, I've been critical of things. This is the first time in the show that I did not like something. So I don't know what you could take with that, what you will. That's just my opinion on it, because I view them very differently from a lot of people how they view them. So, but it leaves them for the group to go take a breath and separate for a little bit and sort of get their bearings. I also was like gritting my teeth through the whole episode. Lan and Moraine were talking, and how she feels like that she has taken Lan away from this big destiny, and he's just like, I basically had nothing until I lost everything, and I have nothing. And when I found you, you gave me a new purpose. And I thought that was all really good, and I was just like, I love Lan too, obviously, and I'm like, please, I want them to talk about his backstory and all these sort of things. And we get Lan going throughout the city and saying his goodbyes to his main family, and Nynaeve is sort of following him and stuff like that, and they have a really cool scene of him popping up, and then he invites Nynaeve in to talk with them, and they all eat together, and it's really cool. And I'm like, I wanted at that dinner scene for him to talk about Lan and his backstory and him being a king, but they didn't there, so I was just like gritting my teeth, just waiting so long to get to that point. And then they have they go back to their bedrooms, and Lan is like super awkward and just like trying to respect her, and just like, okay, and good night, and then like heads back in. And Nynaeve comes in and is just like, do you want me to leave? And then he's obviously like shirtless and looking really hot, and it's just like, no, I don't want you to leave. And they end up going to Pound Town, which is a great time for them. Then we go over to Egwene and Rand is basically just like, I was waiting for you to come to me. And I was like, that was kind of a dick thing to say, but whatever, Rand. Actually, we get my favorite scene, I think, of the whole series so far. A lot of people were like, it was too emotional. For me, I think it's because it's because I haven't read the series a lot. I only read it one time through, but there's a scene between the both of them at the end of the series that really resonated in my mind when they were talking here. There's basically this big line that happens that Rand says, and he says, "I will always stand by you. Know that no matter what comes." I just thought that was a great line because I'm thinking back to near the end of the series, a meeting between them, and it's just like it really resounded a lot for me. So it was super emotional, but I thought it was the right kind of emotion because I really liked that moment with them together. The next sort of scene that I really liked was finally the point where I was gritting my teeth a whole bunch, was a moment when Nynaeve is about to leave Lan, and basically Lan's asking her to stay, and she's just like, basically Moraine owns you, and he's just like, I'm not owned by anybody, and they start going into this backstory of Lan and how he is a king of a kingdom that was lost, and this is just, it's the Aragorn story, but I really love it, and I love it's a part of Lan's story as well, and I'm glad he was able to finally talk about it, and it sets up a lot of things in the book series between the both of them, and basically how they both have very different paths they're going on, and even though that they love each other, they're not able to basically be together, and it's really cool, and I'm very excited for how they're going to execute this. Even I've seen from people who don't like the show, they said that they are getting Lan and Nynaeve really like right. Like they said, it's pretty close, and I think they are doing a very good job with Lan and Nynaeve. After that, we get to Rand, who is sort of waking up from these like nightmares, and all the pieces are starting all to connect together, and we see past instances of him using the One power and really setting him up to be the Dragon Reborn. And we hear the voices that he is the Dragon Reborn, and a lot of people, and I was watching another channel, and they were talking about how like this is way too early. Like it's people who haven't seen the book, who haven't read the books, and they're like, they revealed this too early. They're gonna like switch it up and make us not think that it is Rand, because this is too early to reveal it. And I love that they revealed it this early. In the books, Rand is the Dragon Reborn, so I don't think it's too early. At first I did, but looking back on it, I'm like, okay, finally we like got this. And we looked at basically the 30 seconds for the new episode, and we see that Perrin and them have probably stayed back at Fauldara to fight off the dark forces, so they don't go after Moraine and Rand, or maybe like Egwene and Nynaeve do with Lan, or maybe just Lan and Nynaeve go, and then Perrin and Egwene stay back at Fauldara. I think that might be a little bit more possible. So Nynaeve will see Rand and become the Dragon Reborn, which I think would speak volumes to Rand and Nynaeve's journey and their relationship, especially later on in the series. So that would be super awesome. And then basically Rand goes off and talks with Min about what she sees and setting up things with their relationship and that sort of thing. And I thought it was a little cute little scene. And basically they all meet up in the morning, and they're just like, all right, we're gonna go. And we get a fake out, and Rand actually goes and sees Moraine after he talks with Min, and he says, it's me, I'm the Dragon Reborn. And they go off and start going into the Blight, and it looks super creepy and awesome. My dad was like, I love the way that they depicted it. It looks exactly like how he envisioned it. I was like, that's super awesome. I'm glad that like it fits for you. I totally liked it as well. I think it works really well, and I'm excited to see where they're gonna go with it. So that's basically it for me and my thoughts on the Wheel of Time episode 7. I'm super pumped for episode 8 to come out. I am doing an 8-hour marathon, so I'm gonna start it like probably in the morning, and I'm gonna be watching it through and probably taking breaks to eat, obviously. But I got my best friend agreed to watch it with me, and he hasn't started it yet, but he knows how big the series is for me, so he's gonna binge the whole thing with me, and my sisters and her friends, and we're all just gonna spend the whole day watching Wheel of Time. And I am like super excited. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode, how you're feeling for the next episode. I rate this episode a 8.6 out of 10, so that's the highest rating that I've given so far. Nothing has hit a 9 for me. Maybe this next episode will. 9's pretty hard to get to. Like 9 is like, I hate to make the comparison, people will hate me, but they're like the best episodes of television. So best of like Game of Thrones, not a lot sit in the 9s for me, but the best ones are. And honestly, I haven't seen too much television. I only watch really the fantasy stuff. I would also say Attack on Titan has a few 9 out of 10 episodes, actually quite a lot of 9 out of 10 episodes. Anyway, getting off on a tangent, but thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so excited to talk about Wheel of Time with you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.